Okay, I want to do a quick review of Bitcoin real quick. So what we had today was we had a Fed meeting, and once basically the Fed chairman went up and said that there was some concern that interest rates could be risen in sometime in 2022. He basically assured the market that there wasn't going to be any interest rates. The short-term interest rates increased by the Fed throughout, all the way through 2023. So that happened around 12:30, and you can see the market responded, Bitcoin responded, a lot of assets responded. So we did have the price of Bitcoin go down. And it would have got you if we would have went off this 30 MA, it would have told you to exit at 60. It would have gotten it would have re-entered you here right around 56.4, say, and you would be up. You'd be up a good amount. Is there anything there that could have gotten you to stay bullish rather than bearish? Because I did say if the CMF had broken that we would get lower prices. We got the lower prices. We did get the break. We did get a retest of that break, and then we went up, and we've since the announcement, we've basically gone up. The stimulus checks were issued today. That was bullish overall. The market saw that as bullish, that there's going to be a lot of money going into the markets. In anticipation of that, prices are rising. Um, Basically what we're seeing is we got the one to four candle correction on the daily, and now prices are rising. I do want to highlight one thing. I did get the Ichimoku cloud written in, so that the settings won't change on me anymore. But whenever I posted I got a notification from from TradingView that me just changing this and the colors wasn't enough, basically to make it relevant or something like that. So I couldn't post it or publish it. So it's here. I guess it's basically just for me. But what I do want to talk about real quick is I stumbled across this, and I had seen it before, and I think I've shown it before. So it's called the and the reason I stumbled across it again was because the creator of this, actually, I follow him on Twitter, and he posted it that we were getting close to this cross. So what this pi cycle crossover is that since 2013, he didn't. So in 2011, it kind of picked it, but from 2013 till on, and this is only three tops, three data points, but what he highlighted was that once they crossed within 3 days, we got a top. It doesn't mean it's the top for that cycle. It just means we got a top. It could potentially be the top for that cycle. Here we got two of them in this after this halving cycle. Here we only got one. 2011, it wasn't within 3 days. It was actually, I think it got it like 40 days. So basically within 2 months. But this, it's getting relatively close to crossing. And then this also correlates to another indicator, which is called the golden ratio multiplier. And these are all based off of the Fibonacci and the golden ratio, which is 1.6 something, 1.68, I believe. So you could look that up. The math isn't that difficult, but what we're displaying here is that, and he went all the way out to 21, which I found kind of odd because there's 21 million Bitcoin. I don't know if that's just coincidence, or basically he went with 21 because it fit the model. So what it is he's basically been counting down for the whole decade. So 21, that was the first top. 13 was this one. 8 was this one. 5 was this top, and 3 is where we're at. And price is actually there. So what I do think is that, so by this thing, it's saying that we're close. We're close to a top, and even this kind of pi cycle top indicator is also getting very close to saying that we're potentially at a top. Are we going to get this double peak in this cycle? Not quite sure yet. But it doesn't really this kind of top predicting indicator doesn't really align with any of the other indicators. It doesn't that have picked top before. It doesn't align with Willy Woo's top cap indicator. It doesn't align with the Mayer multiple bands. It doesn't align with the stock to flow model. So I do think models are good until they're not. Is this one going to be right and the all other ones going to be wrong, or vice versa? We'll find out. But what I do what I do want to look further into, and maybe I'll just ask the creator, is, we have basically a decade worth. We have 1, 2, 3 halvings worth of data, and whenever I initially saw it and it didn't match the model, all the other models, was that I wonder if there's the potential of it becoming, as it's cyclical in picking the top based on these Fibonacci sequence numbers, is it also cyclical in a sense that it can restart the count? So, like, maybe this cycle we go to 21, and 21 right now is, oh, it's actually not displaying. But if I go to this other chart on this other website, they actually have the golden ratio multiplier, and it does continue. So it is, and it's a lot closer to the models that exist right now, which is that it's around 300 and say 400,000, and that's going to keep on rising until until it actually gets there. So, is it possible that this can pick the cycle tops, but that it restarts basically on a on a decades worth, or yeah, basically on a decade's worth of data. And that was just something I was just curious about. Um, so we have, yeah, so the first halving was in 2012. This was a little bit before it. So this would have been one halving, and then the second one, and then we had the third one. So this is actually just two halvings. I said three, but it's two halvings worth of data, and maybe that's the way this works. I'm not quite sure. I need to look into the math further and maybe come up with a mathematical argument that could possibly be the case. Because as of right now, this is saying that we're at a top, and then if we get this crossover, and this holds true within 3 days, that is the top. We wouldn't know until we actually entered a bear market. So the model would be like, oh, it still stayed, and then the next one, these would trend up, but then the next one would be all the way down to 2, right? It would only be like, say, 50,000. It would almost be like we would go stagnant in price. We would just go flat, and then does it restart once we get to the 1.6 area, or whenever we get to 1, which is the very first start of the sequence? Not the first. I mean, the start of the sequence would be the 50 MA. So at some point, this has to either restart or it becomes invalid, and I think we find out in this cycle. If it Well, 3 outcomes. If it's invalid, uh, if it restarts and we get all the way back up to this 21, um, or it's valid, right? So it would be invalid, possibly. Um, well, I mean, just thinking, there are only two distinct things pop into my mind where you could possibly say with some argument that if it goes all the way up to the 21, that it restarts after two cycle halvings, or that if it holds here, that it's still true, in all expectation that Bitcoin price is going to go sideways, which is kind of counterintuitive, uh, considering all the adoption. But we'll see. We'll definitely, some information is going to come out of this cycle as to this pi and Fibonacci relationship between these two indicators, these two metrics. So yeah, so that's Bitcoin. Let's look at TLRY, because I did exit part of TLRY, but it did start to rally. There was some weakness the day before yesterday where we got a big pullback. Basically, if you would have just looked at the 30 MA, it would have told you to exit. The returns on this are really good, so it's kind of, long term, I'm bullish. I still, really bullish. I still think we have a tremendous upside on this. But if I'm, if you want to take some profits, you could, and I did. We got some price rally post market, but you could re-enter once it goes over the 30 if you want to just keep it simple. It looks like we're developing some sort of channel here between here before this setup trend line and these nines. That is a big range. It's $24 to about $31. So we'll see. I would think you would expect a major breakout above that to 40, and below this, possibly all the way back down to these, 18, 19 areas. Potentially I would have 13, but we'll have to see how that chart spans out there. But right now we're just looking at see how it does on the 30 MA, and we can re-enter. I want to go over Drive Shack because that is actually doing okay. And I said I had exited because there was some. We did hit the 9, and that high probability hits the 9. But if that we continued up and we closed above this line and found support, that I would be happy to re-enter. And I was happy to re-enter. So we went above it. We kind of retested it, went a little bit below it, but we found some support here. And you can probably see on the CMF how it started to trend up, and I like that. Here it started to trend up on the daily. I mean on the 4 hour, and then on the daily as well. So yeah, so we still have that price target of, is the line just not there? Yeah, of around what, 458. So that would be a nice return, something like 20, 30, it's almost 30% probably. Yeah, 35, 36%. We'll see how that plans out. Well, you're wrong. Where you're wrong? You're wrong on the breakdown of probably this area here where it came, but you know, it still could come down and retest this 9, but you wouldn't really be wrong there. It would really have to break down. You look at some of your other indicators, but so that's it right there. That's our target, and we'll see how that plans out. So, like I said, I want to keep this one short. I did highlight that pie cycle and then kind of what the market saw today as far as the Fed announcements on interest rates. So we'll see how everything else goes. Let's look at real quick. S&P, we saw it. Yep, rally. It's probably between that 12 o'clock time as well. Yep, right there where we started to rebound. Did we get a retest on some of these? Not so much there on the daily, did we? Not quite. It touched it, but it was not a red number. At some point today, was it a red number? It was, but it didn't get there. It doesn't have to, but we'll see. Tomorrow could be an 8 and a 9 on Monday. Maybe we get retests all the way back down here. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks for watching.